Hi, good morning. I'm Rahman, and you're watching ASEAN Kita, a show where we explore the stories, challenges, and opportunities that lies within the region. Every year, ASEAN leaders gather to set the region's direction, from trade to diplomacy to security. But for many ordinary citizens, these summits still feel distant. Are they delivering real outcomes or just producing more declarations? To unpack this, I'm joined today by Professor Dr. Azmi Hassan, geostrategist at the Nusantara Academy for Strategic Research. Assalamualaikum, Prof. Thank you for joining us. And let's dive straight into the questions. ASEAN summits have been a regular feature for decades now. From your point of view, how has the purpose of these high-level meetings evolved over the years? And also, are they serving the same strategic function as they first began? Or has the nature of what they aim to achieve shifted, Prof?
Yes, Amero, it's all depend on the chairman of the ASEAN, where they are heading to make sure that the ASEAN summit is critical, is important, not because the 10 nations are meeting together, but because of the side meeting, ASEAN plus three, ASEAN plus United States. And this is also an opportunity for the ASEAN chairman to bring together all the world leaders. For example, US leaders can meet with Russian leaders or the Chinese leaders in this particular case. So in this particular case, the ASEAN summit, it is very important because of the plus meeting. So I reiterate again, it all depends on the ASEAN chairman, who they want to invite, who really they want the world leaders to be here. From my concern, I guess, United States top leaders should be here. The Chinese leaders should be here, and also the Russian leaders should be here, plus the European Union leaders. So I guess it is very important. The good thing is that we took the chairmanship from Laos, and for last year, Laos has been very quiet. So I guess this is the time for Malaysia as a chairman to show that ASEAN centrality. That is what the Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim want ASEAN to be, Amiro.
You mentioned about centrality, Prof, but how much of that evolution of the summit has been shaped by outside pressures like managing the influence of global powers or responding to regional crisis, Prof?
It always external pressures towards ASEAN will color the ASEAN summit. I still remember when Jakarta was the ASEAN chairman, and I think that same particular year, Jakarta was a chairman for G20. And at that particular time, Jokowi, the president of Indonesia, want to invite Russian President Putin, and this put out a hesitation or some constraint from EU and also from United States. So that's at that particular time, it was the external pressures. And now I'll say, I think the external pressures from the superpowers plays a very critical role, especially the tariff war, the trade war between United States and China will color the ASEAN summit, and also the Ukraine war that has been going on for 3 years, and not to forget the current conflict between India and Pakistan, where Datuk Seri Anwar offered as the mediator, not as the Prime Minister of Malaysia, we have to remember that, but as a chairman of ASEAN. So I think it is very important that we have to know that every ASEAN summit, it will be colored by external pressure because of the external conflicts that have been going on.
Prof, let's talk about perception. And how would you assess the public understanding of the role and the impact of ASEAN summits today? Do ordinary citizens in the region feel that these gatherings actually affect their lives, Prof?
Well, Amirul, when you talk about the general population, I would say that the population of Thailand, for example, when they were the chairman, they are so absorbed about the citizen of ASEAN. They talk about similar in parallel to citizen of EU. And we know that talking about citizenship, EU has a very perfect example where the population, for the 27 nation population, they felt so close towards European Union, but not so much for ASEAN. But among the 10 ASEAN member, Amiro, I would say that Thailand is number one, where their citizens felt that ASEAN, they belong to ASEAN, and Malaysia, I would say that, well, number three, number four, after Indonesia, maybe. That's what my feeling. What I'm saying now, Amiro, is that if we go to Kuala Lumpur, where the ASEAN summit will be held, not much that can be seen to attract the Malaysian citizen that this is a very important event. Except that they want, PDP, or work from home for the office workers or the children, they study from home. Only that they realize that there is an ASEAN summit. Beyond that, Amirul, sad to say, no, I don't think so that the general population of ASEAN or the general population of Malaysia really feel the importance of ASEAN Summit or ASEAN as an organization.
Mhm. And Prof, often the spotlight is on trade and economic deals, but from your perspective, what else does ASEAN hope to accomplish through these summits beyond just economic cooperation? Are there soft power or also political dimensions we sometimes overlook, Prof?
Yeah, Prime Minister said when he took over the chairmanship, economy will be the number one. And especially during the tariff that has been imposed on ASEAN members, Prime Minister as a chairman encouraged intra-ASEAN trade. So no doubt about that, the economy. But again, the geopolitical factor, the security, the defense also plays a very, very critical role here, Amirul, because within ASEAN, the South China Sea issue, even though only 4 ASEAN members are involved, there are three, I would say, groups in ASEAN. One group, they are more inclined to side with the United States. Another group with Beijing, and another group they just don't care. Whatever happens, they just follow. So in this particular case, I would say that the geopolitical factor plays a very critical role, especially in the South China Sea. We know what happened to Manila when they are two-sided with the United States. Beijing are not happy. Currently, Balikatan military exercise is being conducted with the Philippines and also United States Army. Beijing also don't feel easy, felt threatened. So I would say that beside economy, I think the geopolitics, the defense security will be the utmost important, Amiro.
Mhm. And also, Prof, if I may ask, where those, we talk about trade, economies, and also security, like you mentioned in the summit platform, but where do social, cultural, or even education issues typically fall in the summit agenda? Are they seen as secondary now, or are they gaining more traction in the summit as Malaysian chairs it, Prof?
Amiro, that's part of the pillars of ASEAN, beside economy, beside geopolitics, there's a social, I would say, cohesion between the ASEAN members. But the problem is that we need visa to go to ASEAN nation. If you want to go to, I would say, Myanmar, Malaysia need a visa. If you want to go to another ASEAN nation, we need another visa. I think that's the reason during the last Minister of Foreign's meeting, Tokman, our foreign minister, Dato Sri Muhammad Hassan, did propose that ASEAN should have only one visa. One visa, you can enter all the 9 nations. I'm not sure whether this will be picked up or not. That is something we need to see. But a few months ago, Amirul, I need to say that, to say this thing that even though it's very, very sensitive, very uneasy, Myanmar, they put out a free visa for all the 8 nations of ASEAN except for Malaysia. This is something that should not have happened. What's so special that Malaysia doesn't need the need a visa for our citizens to go to Myanmar? So I think the mobility of the not only the between businessmen but also the mobility of tourists, I think should be made more easier for ASEAN citizens to go from their origin of country to other 9 nations. I think that's where we need to work out. I think that's the reason why the social, the cultural pillar has been in the back burner all this while.
Mhm. And Prof, if you zoom in and on tangible result, is there a recent ASEAN Summit outcome that you believe has genuinely made a difference to people on the region, on the ground, or something that moved beyond policy talk and into action, Prof?
Well, I may be biased, but I don't see, I think, anything tangible. But I think for the future tangibility, I think Amiro, the Prime Minister, as the chairman of ASEAN, will conduct a GCC summit together with ASEAN, the 10 nations, and also will be inviting China. I think plus Japan or South Korea will also be invited. I think this is very, very critical. If the background of tariff war, if we take into account, I think the chairman is trying to open up for ASEAN a new market. So a GCC, the Gulf region is a huge market. I think that's the reason why the chairman want an ASEAN summit plus the GCC. I think even though it's not happening, it's not happened yet, but I think it's going to be a very tangible result in terms of a new market proposed, strategized by the ASEAN chairman, Amirul.
Prof, as a normal person, maybe they'll see in headlines saying that the summit's declarations and also MOUs or any agreement signed during the summit. But in practical terms, how long does it usually take for a decision made at a summit to actually show up in someone's daily life, whether through policy or programs, Prof?
Yeah, Amirul, I think there's a problem with ASEAN because they work with consensus, meaning all 10 nations need to be agreed. Uh, every time declaration need or communique need to be put out after the ASEAN summit, it will be watered down. The draft will be watered down because one or two nations is not happy because we need consensus, not only on communique, but also on policies that have been agreed upon. So I think that's the reason why I think the Prime Minister as a chairman uh, take out, as I see it, elect or put out Thaksin Shinawatra as the advisor for the chairman, not only Thaksin, but also Han Sen from Cambodia, and also Mr. George Yeo from Singapore, and maybe from Brunei, Indonesia. I'm not sure. I think the tactic, the strategy of the Prime Minister, the chairman, is that he wants consensus. I think that's the most important thing. The Datuk Serrano, as a chairman, try to figure out how to get the consensus from all the 10 nations on issues that are very critical to ASEAN. I think there's a problem that the chairman face, every chairman face, because even communique for the ASEAN summit is going to be very difficult, much more so for any decision that has been taken that need to be done, need consensus from all the 10 nations. Or may I put out the idea of Timor-Leste to be the 11th member? The consensus starting, I think, a decade ago is very, very difficult to achieve. Up until today, I think we reached the consensus whether Timor-Leste will be part of ASEAN this year or not, or maybe next year. I think the problem is because of the consensus need to be agreeable by all the 10 nations.
And Prof, interestingly, you mentioned ASEAN's consensus model, which has certainly kept the bloc stable, but at the same time, it's often blamed for slow or watered down decisions, like you mentioned just now. So do you think it's time to start exploring majority-based decision-making, or at least a non-sensitive or non-securities issues, Prof?
Yeah, I think we need to change the charter. I think there's a charter of ASEAN consensus, that part of it. So if you want to change the charter, it need to be agreeable by all the 10 ASEAN nations. But again, to the internal problem of other ASEAN nations, the charter said shouldn't be involved by other nations. But Malaysia took a precedent by commenting what's happening in Myanmar during Aung San Suu Kyi as the Prime Minister, if I'm not, as the government at that particular time. So we break the taboo at that particular issue of not interfering other internal problem of ASEAN member. So this is another taboo consensus, I think. But I didn't hear anything that Datuk Seri Ana want to change the consensus to simple majority. I haven't heard about that, or two-third majority. I haven't heard. Maybe this is too sensitive issue to be said. Well, maybe we just wait and see. But again, I agree with you, Amirul, that this particular consensus thingy is bringing down ASEAN, that the other world or other parts of the world do not put much attention on ASEAN itself.
Well, we're just getting into the heart of what these summits really mean and why they matter, or perhaps why they should. But we'll take a quick short break, more on ASEAN Kita after this.
Kotak Milo ini penuh tenaga dan nutrien. Di tangan yang betul, ia jadi lebih lagi. Bila dikita semula, ia menjadi fasiliti sekolah. Meja untuk bina impian atau peralatan sukan untuk kenali bakat. Atasi cabaran, bina keyakinan. Dengan Milo, tenaga untuk kebaikan. Kami belajar melalui sukan. Jom mulakan kebaikan dengan kotak Milo.
Berita hebat untuk pelanggan Astro. Kini anda boleh stream Prime Video di Astro tanpa charge tambahan untuk 2 bulan.
I will not leave them.
Hiburan tanpa henti dengan blockbuster global.
Aku dibaca. Ya, burun dah.
K-shows terhangat.
Bohong.
Amazon Original.
Amin.
Dan sensasi tempatan. Prime Video. Terbaik dengan Astro. Nikmati akses selama 2 bulan tanpa charge tambahan.
Di dalam setiap berita yang dibawa, konteks amat penting. Kami sentiasa membawakan yang tergempar dan terkini. Pastikan Astro AWANI menjadi pilihan anda, tidak kira di mana sahaja anda berada.
Welcome back, and you're still watching ASEAN Kita with me, Amirul Aiman, where today we are with our guest, Professor Dr. Azmi Hassan, geostrategist at Nusantara Academy for Strategic Research, where we're still unpacking the bigger picture behind ASEAN Summits and what they represent. Let's pick up where we left off, Prof. There's a common critique out there that some say ASEAN Summits are mostly symbolic or ceremonial. As someone who follows regional affairs closely, how do you respond to that? Do you think that perception is fair, Prof?
Well, in a way, it's true. It's true perception. There is a true reality to it. When the communique came out 2015, when we were the chairman of ASEAN, there is a KL declaration, Langkawi declaration, 2 declarations, in fact, during our chairmanship. But as far as we can see, both declarations, especially the KL declaration, to make the ASEAN community more viable, more vibrant, is still not achievable. But again, as a chairman, now 10 years after that, a decade after that, I think Malaysia as a chairman will do something about it. We'll do something concrete about it. And the most interesting part of our chairmanship, Amiro, is that to make ASEAN more centrality, to make ASEAN more involved into international affairs, whether it's what's happening in Gaza, what's happening in Ukraine, and right now what's happening in the South Asia. I think ASEAN need to be involved. They just cannot be keeping quiet to it. So I guess the perception will change. But again, I stress that it's all depend on the chairman. Who is the chairman? Whether the chairman want to take the risk or what the chairman want to take it easy. That's how ASEAN will work out during that particular year, Amirul.
And Prof, would you say that smaller member states, in particular, find value in the ritual and ceremony of these summits as a form of equal footing between the larger power or the bigger powers in ASEAN, Prof?
Yes, I think there's a very true perception because they have the same 1/10 of the power. They have 1 of the vote, 1/10 of the vote within the 10 ASEAN nation. I think that's the reason why the 10 ASEAN nations are very hesitant about Timor-Leste. Whether Timor-Leste, which the GDP is way much lower than Laos, for example, in ASEAN, and Timor-Leste doesn't have the infrastructure, they don't have the personnel to conduct the meetings, and we are giving another power to another nation, 1/11. So all the ASEAN nations have the 1/11 power. So I guess for Timor-Leste joining ASEAN, it is the beneficial. Most of the benefit is on Timor-Leste, not on ASEAN. I think that's the reason. Yeah, I concurred with you, and you said that the much smaller nation, they, I would say, felt that, I think they're feeling that they have the similar power to other bigger nations in ASEAN. I think that's the beauty of ASEAN, I guess. That's the beauty of ASEAN in this particular case.
And then also, Prof, communication is key when it comes to ASEAN summits and all that. In your view, how can ASEAN do a better job at explaining summit outcomes to the general public, and especially when technical or diplomatic language may make these outcomes feel distant or abstract to the regular, ordinary people in ASEAN, Prof?
Yeah, true enough. If I read the communique every end of the ASEAN Summit and the declaration, for example, even KL Declaration, Langkawi Declaration, the words they use are very the words that are, I would say, jargon to me. But to the diplomatic core, I think they will understand it. So I guess it's the job of the chairman, especially to explain, in this case, in this particular case, to explain to the Malaysians what it's all about. Why is it so important this coming 26 and 27, the ASEAN Summit? And the job of every member of ASEAN to explain to their citizen in a term of simple language. There are a number of ASEAN nations that just citizen just doesn't care about ASEAN. And maybe, I think if Pete Exec, the Secretary of Defense for the United States, never heard of ASEAN before he became the Secretary, I'm sure that there are citizens of ASEAN that not only don't care about ASEAN, but they never heard about ASEAN itself. So again, we need to change this particular stigma that occurred during the hearing of the Secretary of Defense a few weeks ago, Amirul.
Mm-hmm. And let's talk about accountability, Prof. How should we be measuring the success of ASEAN summits? Is it just about the number of agreements signed, or perhaps is there a space for a deeper, perhaps more people-centric way of evaluating what has this meeting accomplished, Prof?
From my point of view, Amirul, if the top leadership of the United States talk to the top leadership of China, for example, I think that's a very success ASEAN Summit, ASEAN Plus meeting. So I would say that the success really doesn't matter how many memorandum that we put out, how many policy that we put out. How success is the chairman inviting these superpower leaders, maybe not the president itself. I think from United States point of view, if they send, I would say, Marco Rubio, I think that's good enough. For the Chinese part, I think if they send Li Qiang, maybe the premier, I think that's good enough. But I don't think so the top leaders will attend the ASEAN Summit. I think the chairman need to do as good as possible to tap in the top leadership, plus the Russian and the EU top leadership. So I think that's the success that I would like to see Malaysia as the chairman and ASEAN as an organization that need to be respected.
Mm-hmm. And recently there have been quite a few natural disasters that happen in the region, Prof. When a sudden crisis strikes, be it pandemic or natural disaster, what mechanism let leaders convene and decide, maybe perhaps outside the summit cycle, because natural disasters could happen any time, as we see in Myanmar, and also the effects in Thailand and also Indonesia. Could ASEAN set up a standing crisis task group empowered to take these provisional measures until the next Forward Summit, Prof?
I think within ASEAN there are protocol to have another nation that has been, imposed by a disaster. You mentioned Myanmar, the earthquake in Myanmar, and when the Prime Minister visited, Datuk Seri Anwar visited Thailand, he did call on the junta military Myanmar to have a discussion. So a lot of, I think, analysis, they are very hesitant. Why Datuk Seri Anwar need to talk to the military of Myanmar? But one purpose why Datuk Seri Anwar calling is he want the ceasefire to be continued, to be extended, so that the humanitarian aid to Myanmar can be easily put forward. I think, again, even though we have the protocol to have other nations, our neighbors or within ASEAN, but I think it all depends on the chairman, how far he is willing to go. So Datuk Seri Anwar talking to the military junta, I think he did go very far. Even though here and then the military of Myanmar did break the ceasefire, but again, the initiative taken, I think, can be used as an example, can be used as a model for the next chairman when disaster strike. I think Malaysians are not that happy with Myanmar because of, as I said before, they don't offer a free visa to us. I'm not sure why. Maybe we are very vocal, but when disaster strike, I think we have the responsibility to help Myanmar in this case.
Mm-hmm. And Prof, looking forward, if you were to imagine a more future-facing and citizens-connected ASEAN Summit, what kinds of reforms or changes would you personally like to see? What would it take make these summits more meaningful for the next generation of Southeast Asia, which is the future of Southeast Asian, Prof?
Yeah, I think the only involvement of the general citizen whenever the ASEAN Summit, whether in KL or other parts of the ASEAN members, is during the social cultural show. I'm sure during the ASEAN Summit in Kuala Lumpur, there will be a lot of us social cultural show to to show our culture, to show our and next year is our Visit Malaysia year 2026. That only part that the citizens are really involved. The other parts, when it comes to economy, when it comes to security, defense, is only the top level meeting. Either the senior officials of each ministry or the deputy minister, and the prime minister. I think we need to change that. I think we can start by divulge what happened during this particular meeting in a very simple language that we can understand. And it is very, I think, a model. I think much better than European model where ASEAN, even though they have pressures from the external superpowers, even though we have internal problems, no breakout of problem, the physical problem, I meant by that. So I think we need to, divulge this information in a language that can be easily understood by the people.
And Prof, before we end the show, I have one more question. And when we talk about reforms that we want to do with ASEAN as a bloc, one challenge often raised is maintaining the national sovereignty of each nation. How do you think ASEAN can innovate the summit structures without undermining that core principle that we have right now, Prof?
Yeah, sovereignty, I think let's take I would say, sovereignty in terms of border or multiple claim in South China Sea, also between Cambodia and Thailand, also between Malaysia and Singapore. I think these are bilateral issues. We have maritime problem, especially near the port of Johor with Singapore, and with Prime Minister Lawrence Wong re-elected as the Prime Minister. And I think Prime Minister Lawrence Wong said that we want to discuss with Malaysia with this particular issue, the water issue, for example. So I think these bilateral issues need to be resolved by the two nations or the three nations involved. Yes, in South China Sea, our EEZ is conflicting, overlap with Vietnam, overlap with Brunei. But I think with Brunei, we are resolving. We already resolve it, not with Vietnam, not with Philippines, but I think it's not the critical part of it. But I think in this particular case, ASEAN as an organization should not be involved, but between the two bilateral or trilateral nations in this case.
Well, that's all the time that we have for today's episode of ASEAN Kita. We would like to thank Professor Dr. Azmi Hassan, Geostrategist at Nusantara Academy for Strategic Research, for his insights as Malaysia prepares to chair the ASEAN Summit this month. And because regionalism only works when the people it serves feel included. I'm Amrul Aiman. Thank you for watching. Until next time, see you on ASEAN Kita.